Do you know people whose lives have been so transformed by the cancer, so transformed by the abandonment or by the betrayal, so transformed by the accident, and you can't really say whether life would be better without it? I don't know. There's some kind of miraculous healing or redemption or transformation that only suffering can do. The people whose faith I respect the most are people who have suffered and emerged on the other side, deeper and wiser, more humble and patient and loving. Do you know people like this? Some of you are probably asking, well, this is easy for the blind man. He got healed. What about all the other people Jesus didn't heal? What about me? What about my prayers for healing that weren't answered? There are a lot of really, really smart people who have asked that question. I've thought a lot about it. I've read what they've written, and here's my best answer. I don't know. I don't know why some of our prayers for healing are not answered. I just don't know. 10 years ago, my family was in a really difficult place. I had the family growing up where everybody wanted to come to our house. We were happy and healthy and whole. We were active in the life of the church. And my dad struggled with depression. He was a psychologist, so he wasn't supposed to have these problems. He was supposed to help people with those problems. And every day I begged, I prayed, God, please would you redeem this? Would you heal him? Would you redeem this? Wouldn't it be so awesome if he could move through this season and help people on the other side? And my foundation was ripped to the core when instead of him being healed, he took his own life. That's not the story I would have written. I don't know why, for what cause, or even what purpose, but 10 years later, I can see glimmers and threads of redemption. I can see unique parts of my story in the very, very good places that are only possible because of the suffering, and only God could weave that complex good out of such deep and dark trauma. I don't know what you're going through. I don't know why. I can't answer that. Who could answer that? But I can tell you what I do know. I believe with my whole heart that suffering is not abstract to God. That suffering is not philosophical or some problem to be solved. I believe that suffering to God matters. And that when we are in places of pain, that it hurts God, that it breaks his heart. See, we weren't made to suffer. We weren't made for this. It's why we have such a strong sense of injustice and pain and that things are not fair and they're not right. We were not made for this. In our story of creation, we were made for perfection. We were made for beauty. Our story of creation tells of an all-powerful God who with a word spoke life into existence. That he designed and created flowers and plants and animals, and then when all of that had been done, he knelt down in the ground, and with mud, do you see what's happening here? With mud, he formed man in his image, and he breathed life. That same mud that Jesus spat into and healed that man. And on the seventh day, he rested because it was so, so good. He was so pleased with what he had made, so delighted in what he saw. That's obviously not a reality today, is it? You don't need me to tell you that something went wrong, that we are suffering from our own sin, from the sin of other people, from disease and from disaster. We are not in Eden anymore, but that is not the end of the story. We are not left to this state of sorrow. Suffering is not abstract to God. God did something about it. We believe that God came to earth in the form of a man, and it sounds so crazy to say it, but that he walked among us. And when God became man, he didn't walk around in his power and his privilege. He didn't ride a horse. He didn't build palaces or kingdoms to exalt his name. He walked around with a ragtag bunch of people healing blind people at the city gates. He got in trouble with the law. He was a rebel. and he suffered. When God came to earth, he didn't come distant or exempt from suffering. He is a man of sorrows. That's what the prophet Isaiah says about him. You know what he says about Jesus? He says he was despised and rejected by men, a man of sorrows and acquainted with grief, as one from whom men hide their faces. He was despised, and we esteemed him not. We don't like to see people who suffer. It's uncomfortable. That's what we did with Jesus. We put him on a cross and turned our backs. Surely he has borne our griefs and carried our sorrows. He was pierced for our transgressions. He was crushed for our iniquities. Upon him was the chastisement that brought us peace. And with his what? Wounds. With his wounds we are healed. Notice that this doesn't say it's with his perfection or with his power or with his glory or his might. It is with his wounds we are healed. It is through his suffering that God redeems all of the brokenness in our world. He died on a cross and he went to the tomb, but the tomb was not the end of the story. That death could not hold him down, that on the third day Jesus rose from the dead. And do you know what the promise is for us? That death does not have the last word for him, and it does not have the last word for us. I do not know what you are facing, but I can tell you it is not the last word. We have a God for whom death and evil and suffering is not the last word, but he gets it. He doesn't just see it, he sees it, because he too has suffered. He has dealt with it. And it may not be right now. It may not be in this moment. It may take 10 years for you to see his hand at work. But God's hand is at work. I cannot tell you why you are going through what you are going through. Not in the past looking for a cause way. But I can tell you that there will be power worked through it. That Jesus will work his healing work in a way that only God can do in your story when you invite him into those difficult places.